My subscribers want me to talk about another horror game. Well, this seems like a perfect opportunity to talk about my favorite, Bendy and the Bull. Five Nights at Freddy's needs no introduction, so I'll be introducing it. Five Nights at Freddy's, or Fnaf as the acronym goes, is a 2014 horror game developed by Scott Cawthon. Scott came up with the idea after his previous game, Chipper and Son, was criticized for being too creepy and uncanny, saying it looked like the old Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz Pizza animatronics. So, he took that criticism and ran with it, and made Five Nights at Freddy's, which was a huge success. And then he made more. Then Steel Wool made the two Fnaf games that weren't made by Scott Cawthon, Fnaf Help Wanted and Security Breach. So, to make sure I don't fall down the underdeveloped indie horror game rabbit hole, we're gonna rip it apart and then put it back together again with glitter glue. So, let's start with the horror. Is it possible to talk about something that doesn't exist? I'm kidding. There are spooky parts of Security Breach, but in terms of general atmosphere, start of Security Breach, amazing. I love everything going on here. It quickly establishes the main cast, the general aesthetic, and you get this sense of irony because you know that these guys are going to be the ones hunting you down later. Then the game starts. You meet Freddy, the best buddy character in any indie horror game that can talk. It establishes Gregory, establishes staying away from Vanessa in a very clunky way.
I cannot connect to the main network.
It's her. She cut you off. She's not going to let you call for help until she finds me.
Who? Who is looking for you? Your mother?
Shh! I hear footsteps!
That is the security guard. She can help.
No, I don't trust her.
Why not?
I don't know who she is, but she's trying to get me.
Then you go in the vents, and this part is great because it's intense-ish, because you're crawling through the vents to each animatronic's room and getting glimpses of their personality. Roxy is narcissistic and talks to herself in the mirror. Monty has anger issues, and so he's breaking everything. And Chica plays the guitar because she has no personality. The beginning of the game is very curated. You can tell they really wanted to focus on the intro, and they really wanted to make it great. So when the game became horrible, you'd go, oh, but the beginning was so good. I'm sure it'll get good again. But if you were to ask me what the plot of Security Breach was, I would say, boy gets stuck in Pizzaplex. Boy befriends robot. Boy is scared because other robots are trying to kill him, so he wants to leave. So what does boy do? He absolutely obliterates them, leaving you to wonder who was really hunting who. Oh, and there's this rabbit lady. So, to start off positive, the character designs are all really good. The only character I don't like is Gregory, which is a really big compliment because with most games there's only one character with a design I really like. So for me to like majority of the cast is the sign of really skilled artist. Example, Freddy Fazbear. I love his shape. Let me explain. We all agree that the original Freddy is incredibly iconic. That's a simple fact of the universe, and I wouldn't change him for anything. But as the series goes on, every Freddy has the exact same silhouette. They all have a very square body shape, making it so that if it was just the silhouette, you'd barely be able to tell them apart. And that's one of the reasons why if you were to ask somebody which one of the cast was their favorite in the later games, it was almost always not Freddy, because all the other animatronics usually have some kind of silhouette variation between them, making them more of a standout for that particular game, while Freddy is more of the same. But Glamrock Freddy, he's not like other Freddys. No, this man is a triangle. Not just in his chest area, but also his shoulder pads, face makeup, and ears all tend to have an overall sharp triangle look. This makes him stand out against the other Freddys. Also, orange was a very good choice, because if you didn't know, this game has a very neon 80s aesthetic, and if his color had been a brown, it would have looked out of place, and even too natural looking. You could even say the original Freddy being brown is to make him almost seem more natural and alive looking, and also helping to hide him in the shadows, while Freddy is so brightly colored it's like, yes, he is a robot, and he's shiny and new, and it makes wherever he is easy to see from far away, which is good game design. Next up is Roxy. I think Roxanne Wolf was a good replacement for I Am a Pirate Foxy, because the whole pirate thing would have muddled up the glam rock aesthetic. It could work, I have no doubt about that, but not as the main cast. Because you need to clearly communicate glam rock with the main guys, and having a pirate makes you kind of go, what's the gimmick supposed to be? Glam rock stars? Why is he a pirate? Now, if you already knew about Fnaf, you'd know he's a pirate, but it also has to be clear to someone who's never seen them before. That's why I don't like certain designs, because without pre-existing knowledge, you'd be so confused about some of them, like, boogity boogity boo, that's a chicken. Because you shouldn't lose the core idea of the original design, or the design might only be understandable to people who've already seen the characters, leaving anyone else to feel alienated. But Roxy is good at this. She keeps Foxy's basic shape and silhouette, and having the basic gameplay function of being the fastest. Now, do I think they should keep making more versions of Roxy? No, because like I said, she gives Security Breach its own unique identity, and she is basically a Foxy, so to make a different version of her is to get into a whole nother subcategory. Now, visually and character-wise, she's great. She's the embodiment of 80s cartoon women like Gem and the Holograms with her big hair, shoulder pads, and makeup. You could say she was an 80s character, and I'd probably believe it. 10 out of 10 design. Chica. Now, I'll be honest, Chica has always been my least favorite in the games just because she was always designed as the girl. That's what most of her designs reflected. But with Security Breach, they add Roxy, giving Chica the opportunity to get more unique. While she is kind of lacking on the character front, maybe that was intentional to give her that very plastic, happy kind of feeling.
I am just trying to help. Who wants candy?
Roxy is given the more tough, motorcycle-wearing 80s baddie look, while Chica gets the super cutesy 80s Barbie, which is the best way I can describe her. In fact, she is a lot like the Barbies in Toy Story 2.
I'm Tour Guide Barbie. Please keep your hands, arms, and accessories inside the car and no flash photography.
Speaking of Barbie, you know what would have been a good idea? There should have been one part where Chica had roller skates, because, I mean, it would make sense considering that Freddy had the birthday cake thing. So she could have roller skate feet for, like, the kids, and it could only have to happen once, but it would add some unique scenes instead of constant unending Chica chase. The mechanic would be that she couldn't turn very well to make up with her new speed. Like, if she went really fast, she could turn a little bit, but would have to make contact with something to push herself off again, making it to where if you were in a really tight hallway, she would be faster ping-ponging all over the place, but a lot slower in bigger areas. And she'd be a lot slower on carpet considering how hard it is to gain traction. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Monty. I'll be honest with you, Monty is my least favorite of the group. Bonnie has always been my personal favorite, so whenever I saw he got replaced with an average Florida man, I was like, oh no. His character design is good, but it felt lacking. In any other game, he would have probably been my favorite, but in comparison to the others, he can't compete. But that's my personal opinion. If I take a step back and analyze him for what he's supposed to be, he looks like a big, jerk rock star alligator, so he's good. He communicates what he needs to. I just don't personally like him. Gameplay-wise, he is decently intimidating.
Rocky!
And making him slow balances out Roxy being fast. So, yeah, good game design. Sun and Moon. Good character designs. They easily communicate the Sun and Moon jester vibe that they're going for, and I could easily see them in a little kid area. They also have a very creepy, uncanny feel. Vanessa. Really good design. She looks like she could believably exist in this world, unlike some people, and looks iconic enough to be the main character. I wonder why. It makes me sad how Vanessa is literally only in like 3 scenes. The very start of the game, and when she puts you in Lost and Found. It's especially bad when you consider the security guard has been the constant unchanging factor for most of the games. It's become iconic to the series, so to sideline one of the main unchanging factors of this game, not great.
I don't care for Joe.
I don't like Gregory. In character and design, he just looks so out of place in the game. He looks very last minute, like all the other character designers weren't available and they got somebody else to do Gregory. He looks so stylistically different from everything, especially Vanessa, the only other human in the game. Band-Aid, the hair, he looks like an anime character, which isn't a bad thing, but compared to everything else in this game, this boy must have come from Penny Parker's world because he's in the wrong universe. And character-wise,
But you better be careful moving around. I don't want to be crushed and twisted into a meat pretzel.
he really breaks the sense of immersion with his sarcastic funny lines. He suffers from what a lot of mainstream characters have. I call it chronic sarcasm.
And I got it. What else matters? I think that went pretty well, right?
Alice, I think you and I have very different definitions of all right.
Unfortunately, we haven't found the cure. Now, you remember my Hello Neighbor video, all of the many bugs and glitches? And while not as bad anymore, Security Breach was a good contender to Hello Neighbor's title of most bugged horror game ever.
Your family is looking for you.
So if you bring Freddy close to your door, that's not the pen will open for you.
I just need a little work done.
The game's in a playable state now, but did they even playtest it? This is what the general plot of the game is. The animatronics are having a concert. Freddy forgets to drink his morning coffee and passes out. Freddy finds a tiny kid hiding inside his birthday cake hatch. Kid says he needs help, and Freddy's like, okay, but he won't go to the security guard for help because... why? Your guess is as good as the developers. I know you get security passes to open up more areas and all, but what's stopping you from just chilling at Freddy's? The reason the suspense of Fnaf 1 worked is because you were stuck in an office and you had to defend the little area you had. If the Fnaf 1 night guard had the option to stay in the green room, knowing he would be safe, or put himself in harm's way, I know which one he'd be choosing. So Gregory gets the wild idea, ooh, maybe I should destroy the other animatronics, giving me the advantage and allowing me to make Freddy stronger, making the night easier. And in concept, this is a good idea, but the only thing that warrants this thought is Gregory's insatiable thirst for blood. Mechanically and gameplay-wise, it makes sense, but story-wise, you're just putting yourself in harm's way. You get all of the upgrades, then as it reaches 6 a.m., you head to the doors and Freddy stops you, and he says,
Do not return. It will never be safe. I will miss you.
Freddy, if I leave now, nothing will change, will it? There will be more disappearances.
Yes, I am afraid that is correct.
Disappearances? Well, this is news to me. Did you guys have a whole story arc without me? There's never once a mention of disappearances this whole game. From this point on, you can get a few different endings. Tell Freddy you're leaving, and you go back to being homeless. Because I guess Gregory was homeless. In one ending, you steal a car and run away. Burn the whole place down. Get Freddy destroyed. Or be nice to Vanessa. Then there's the main ending. This ending is special because it's the only one with an actual cutscene. This ending also has you face against an evil rabbit character. Obviously, it's going to be the one they were advertising this whole time, right? Who is this crusty, musty old man? Can someone pick up their grandpa at the front desk? Grandpa Afton gets up from his wheelchair and starts smacking the TV, causing Freddy to go bananas. Then an epic boss battle ensues of you pressing buttons and making Peepaw barbecue. Then this happens and you run. The end. Game of the year. So, for context, this is Springtrap, aka William Afton, aka Glitchtrap, aka Burntrap, aka Peepaw Afton, and he has pretty much been the main villain for all of the other games. And then he died. But then they decided to pull him from the grave like Disney with their live-action remakes. Speaking of which. Vanny, I feel like you're never there for me. Feels like every time you should be there, you're just gone. And when you do show up, all you do is attack me. I wish you were more like how you were advertised to be. Just a little... See? This is what I'm talking about. Vanny has got to be the prime example of the problems with this game. She was going to be the main antagonist of Security Breach. She's all over the marketing, from the posters to the figures to the plushies and slime. Half of the trailers were just building anticipation for her as a villain. And then this is her in the game.
you haven't thought yet.
If you didn't know she was supposed to be the main villain, you'd think she was just some quirky side character who was put in as an Easter egg, which is disastrous for your main antagonists. The little clown men get more screen time. So here's a suggestion of how I would do the story. Everything is the same up to the daycare, except for this part with Vanessa. It's really weird, because it makes sense to the people who already figured out she was Vanny, and that's kind of what Steel Wool Studio expects. But for someone who doesn't know, it doesn't make any sense why he wouldn't. Having him already not like her before you can experience why gives Gregory an almost instant disconnect from the player. Obviously, you don't have to know everything that he knows, but something that big makes you very confused, and it's never clarified. Instead, I would make Freddy suggest going to Vanessa, making Gregory actively want to find her. You see her exit through a door and Freddy's like, "Oh, she's heading to the entrance of the pizzeria. We can go there and you can leave safely." Then everything from here is the same. Doors close, and now, oh no, what do? Plan B, look for Officer Vanessa. And maybe the whole Chica thing is the same, except for some random pass somewhere you see Vanessa go up to the elevator and do a fun little thing of tracking her on the cameras. And then you figure out that she went near the daycare, and so you're like, okay, I gotta go to the daycare. So you get to the daycare and meet Son, and I'd say this is pretty much the same, except when you come out with a security pass, Freddy's waiting outside and learns the other animatronics are hostile. Let's say Chica or maybe Roxy come down the stairs acting pretty normal, like, "Oh, hey Freddy, do you know why Son was yelling?" And then when she sees Gregory, her whole demeanor changes and she rushes to snatch him, but Freddy saves you and hides you just in time, and she's all like, "Where'd he go?" And he's like, but that way. Now, Freddy is aware of the situation. I'd like the three mains to have different levels of hostility, Monty being the chillest, Roxanne being the most aggressive. So they're not always doing the super sneaky stealth crouch. Monty, maybe he kind of loafs around, maybe he sits sometimes. He's aware, but he's not really listening to every single sound. He'll sneak once he gets suspicious, but Chica is kind of a middle ground. She's pretty aware, but she might get distracted by food. Like, she'll start looking around at restaurants, but Roxy is just always on the hunt. Maybe she'll have a 20% chance of looking at her reflection or getting in a fight with a staff bot because it rolled on her tail or something, and that gives you an opportunity to run away. I'd also like to add the little detail of if you leave the door open, when one of them is sneaking around, they might see it and say, "Did I leave that open?" just to give them some extra life. Anyways, you continue the search for Vanessa while doing something like crawling in the vents to get to the main security office. And you see some screens displaying what the animatronics see, but if you notice at the main three it says security mode on the edge of their vision or something like that. Well, Freddy doesn't have that. It probably says something like safe mode. This leads you to the conclusion that the reason they're attacking is because they're in security mode, and you're not registered in the employee and customer database, so they see you as like a burglar or some kind of equivalent to that. Doing this would also update your map. You leave and Mamma Mia, there's Officer Vanessa. You alert her and she's like, "Oh my goodness gracious, a child." Now, this would not be "I hate children with a passion" Vanessa, like in the final game, but more of the trailer kind of Vanessa. She actually wants to help you and she says, "We're gonna get you out of here and there's an exit a decent distance away from here." Maybe you talk a little bit and do some kind of puzzle together, and now it's like halfway through the night. And as you do, you're walking with your new sister role model, and she starts feeling a little weird. Then she starts feeling really weird. She tells you gotta get out of there. And snap! She's Vanny, right in front of your eyes. I'd like to consider Vanessa as a Jekyll and Hyde situation, but if when Jekyll turned into Hyde, he ran around in a fursuit to attack kids. She turns into Vanny at the end of every hour for 10 minutes and can appear anywhere in that time. She basically replaces Moon in this scenario and isn't as easy to avoid. When she's Vanessa, she's harmless, and she could even give you a few tips if you're lost, but you always have to make sure you're not at the end of the hour when approaching her. I'd like the animatronics to actually interact with Vanessa when they're near her. Vanny appears, you get this overwhelming glitchy effect that is kinda scary, but you can't see anything half the time. You usually don't even realize she's there because you can't see her. I know it's to show that the robots can't see her, but you're not a robot. You're not. So, to get the same concept across, I'd have it to where the lights would start flickering to show the magnetic waves or whatever she's got going on. Anything electronic would flicker, and then it would get dim as she got closer. Kinda like bending the ink machine with the ink on the walls. Anyways, Vanessa Vanny. Run from Vanessa a little bit, should be kind of easy, and then you lose her in this dark hallway, and BAM! Vanny's here. Using this scene from the trailer, you start running again. This time she's much harder than Vanessa, but she's still not too fast. She'll just kind of quickly turn corners. Escape in Freddy and go under the stage. Save for the hour. It won't always be that easy. And you make it to the upgrade station. Your new objective is to upgrade Freddy to withstand Vanny's magnetic waves. So disassembling works about the same, like everything is pretty spot on with Chica, except instead of a specific pizza flavored thing that you gotta get in a particular place, just get pizza. Any will do. Plus, it'd be funny to see Gregory or even Freddy try to order pizza. Her voice box in this sewer part is probably about the same, but I would change Shattered Chica mechanically because she almost seems stronger when broken. Make it to when she turns her head all the way around, it takes her a moment to get it to turn back. If she saw you, she'd take a moment to get her head back into place before chasing. Roxy's whole thing wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for DJ Music Man! Make you repeat a 20-minute section without saving, and then at that point it doesn't become scary anymore. A horror game is not the type of game you make people repeat a part constantly, because horror comes from fear of the unknown, which you lose by making them repeat it. It almost seems like they made the fear of being scared into the fear of losing progress. So when you finally drive the go-kart into Roxy, I'd say you actually drive it this time and it's not just a cutscene. Mechanics-wise, her shattered form is pretty good, so I'd keep that. Monty fight is what everyone considers to be the best encounter in the game because it's most like a boss battle, and yeah, I can see that. But of course we can't have anything nice in the Pizzaplex, so Mazercides exist. Don't you just love mindlessly clicking buttons, going through a maze, only to realize you did something wrong, go back, accidentally press the wrong button, and just let yourself get caught because it's easier to reset it that way? Don't you just love that? No? Then you should write the next Five Nights at Freddy's game. Obviously, we take out Mazercides, go through the vents, and then play the boss battle the same way as the original, except Monty stops jumping into oblivion every 5 seconds. Then, for his shattered form, I don't know how I feel about using his claws. I get it's the most obviously useful part of him, but considering how the others had the whole speak no evil, see no evil kind of thing, and his is claw no evil, I know he doesn't have ears or anything, but he's gotta hear somehow. You take Monty's AirPods or whatever, and now Freddy can hear things he couldn't before, like Vanny. Since things get darker when she's around, and is it a better excuse to why Freddy can sense Vanny? Because I know there's the whole, I've got new eyes, I can see you. But I don't think Roxy could see Vanny, so how does that work? Roxy's whole thing was seeing robots through the walls, but I don't know if my game was glitched or something, but I never saw anybody. So instead, switch it out with Roxy being able to see collectibles and body heat, maybe? Explaining how she could easily see you and Vanessa. And maybe a bit of Vanny. Maybe that leads you to see a figure that looks like a person, and if you go to investigate it, oh no, it's a dead body! Or something like that to give context for the missing people thing. And then Monty could be switched up with sound, and it'll show people's footprints or something. Think like the Harry Potter map, as a visual representation for hearing where the footsteps are, which could also be useful for Vanny, so even if it gets really dark, you might see the faint outline of her footprints. So the whole missing people thing becomes an actual plot point by being able to see where they are with Roxy's eyes, but I think that these should be optional. So it's only by the curiosity of the player that you find them out, and looks like you're actually discovering things. Could also be how you get additional security passes. You'd still get the first 3 through the main story, and you wouldn't technically need the others. You could still finish the game without them, but getting them unlocks shortcuts in secret areas, so it's getting multiple things done at once. So 6 a.m. rolls around, and Freddy asked if you want to leave or stay, now with having the new context of there actually being missing people, and leaving will get you the bad ending, and staying will get you onto the journey of fighting Vanny. The best ending, aka saving Vanessa, is obviously Gregory saving Vanessa. And it is also going to be our new canon ending for a couple of reasons. So instead of playing a bunch of arcade games to free Vanessa, you have an epic showdown with Vanny, replacing the burn trap fight because it's kind of unsensical. So instead, if you choose to help Vanessa, you call her and tell her of the situation, saying you've got a plan and that she needs to go down underneath the Pizzaplex. Suddenly, you're playing as Vanessa. Since she was going to be the main playable character anyway, and so you have a better chance to understand her situation, you get to play as Vanessa and go down underneath the Pizzaplex. As you get deeper, things start to feel a little off, and she realizes it's 6 a.m. Vanny's coming. You struggle to get yourself there, and as you go in and out of control, you start locking the doors behind you, keeping Vanny from being able to leave once you turn. And once you can't hold on any longer, your vision blurs and you put on the Vanny mask from, somewhere. And inside is what looks to be a VR headset. Now, as the player, you know to destroy the mask, and that becomes your motivation. A fight of the ages ensues. Then you've got two choices in the fight. You can crush the mask, freeing Vanessa, and running off together as a weird found family. Or you push her off into a horde of staff bots in a way I can only describe as the scene from Toy Story 2. That is the unpreferred ending, of course. As far as silly other endings go, steal Vanessa's car and get away from the Pizzaplex, causing Vanessa to have to walk home. Stay in the daycare until 6 a.m. This would be a silly ending where you don't go and then you just stay with Son. Accidentally get Freddy destroyed. Escape from a trash chute. Who knows what you might find there. All in all, there's a lot I wish was different about Security Breach, but don't get me wrong, I love the aesthetic and the characters. I just wish it upheld its title as a video game, being fun to play, and having a good story. Because when you think about it, Security Breach is not going to age well. For us who followed around with the story during production, we know what's supposed to be going on, but for anybody 10 years later in the future who just wants to blindly pick up this game, they'll have no idea what's going on and forget about it. Because the only reason that this game was popular is because it was a Fnaf game. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked it, why not subscribe and check out some of my other videos like redesigning Monster High characters or Hello Neighbor. Or maybe even check out The Carlette Show, a horror project game of mine. Thank you!